Loren Greiff, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm so excited, and I hope it's a gorgeous day out there in Utah because sun is shining and it's Friday.
It is, oh, I'm so excited about it being Friday. And yes, it's beautiful here. We're just getting fall weather. The leaves are changing. The mountains are multicolored and beautiful. I think our family's going to go on a drive up in the mountains this weekend. It's a beautiful, beautiful time. You're joining us from North Carolina, which is also probably gorgeous right now. And
Hey,
I'm thrilled to have a chance to sit down with you to have a nice conversation around challenging assumptions around careers and the workplace. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to deal with being told you're overqualified and how you can flip that conversation. A lot of us have probably experienced that. I know I have, and so I'm as excited to hear from you about on this topic as hopefully anyone in the audience is. Because yeah, it's super frustrating. Like, if you're passionate about something and you're qualified, and you have a lot to bring to the table and you really want to work with an organization, and then they won't even really look at you because they say you're overqualified. Um, like there's this magic sweet spot. You can't be underqualified, you can't be overqualified. You have to be like this perfect little sweet spot, which kind of seems nuts to me. Yet, it's a common challenge that I think people face. So this is what we're going to unpack and explore together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Lauren's bio with everybody. Loren Greiff is the founder of Portfolio Rocket, a career consultancy dedicated to helping executives over 40 break free from outdated job search systems and land roles that match their worth. After being uh, performance improvement planned after being performance improvement planned at 54 for being too enthusiastic at one of the world's top executive search firms, she saw firsthand how traditional systems can marginalize experienced talent. Instead of shrinking, she launched a mission to flip the script and a business that's now helped over 430 leaders land faster and earn more by doing it differently, not traditionally. And I could go on. There's a ton about you and your background that I think is just awesome. But I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight before we dive on in?
I think you hit all the public facing pieces, and also what I'm about to share is public facing. So I refer to myself as a loud mouth age advocate, and that's because and foremost, let's just get real. I'm 61. I've been through the system both from a candidate standpoint and also from a recruiting standpoint.
Yeah.
And I know that age is inevitable, right? But playing small because of your age is a decision. And so I really want to reinforce that whether they tell you you're overqualified or not, uh, is up for suspect, and also plenty of workarounds to share here.
Yeah, yeah. I love how you frame that. Playing small, it doesn't serve anybody. And not I mean, so the main topic for today is, they tell you you're overqualified and how do we deal with that? Kind of a connected piece to that is like if you find, and this kind of goes back to your bio, and like you're too enthusiastic. I'm like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? You're too enthusiastic.
What it meant was that, and this is, I'll give you the high level so that you don't have to read the novel, but working in corporate and this very, very well-known executive search firm, I use the word yippee in an email. And when my boss knocked on the door and told me that that was too conversational, too enthusiastic, and not professional, that was my hint, haha, right? That despite my performance and despite a lot of the other relationships that I built and being so hardworking and making my numbers and all those things, I was no longer an aligned fit. And I was the only one over 50 at the time. I also was working on a lot of very sexy direct to consumer brands, the ones that, have a notoriously digital native type of,
Mhm.
mention in their job descriptions, which is also code for we want somebody who, you know, isn't
Yeah.
isn't above a certain age. So
Yeah.
it got me
Yeah.
peaked to that idea like, hey, this is a real thing. And then since that time, I've really dedicated myself to serving this audience of 40 plus.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And how silly it is to say you're too enthusiastic. That's it's one thing if it's customer facing and they say, "Hey, you need to be a little bit more professional." Oh, okay, that's good feedback. But like, who cares? Like you said yippee in an email. Like who cares? I've experienced similar types of things, where it's kind of the same thing. Like my office, your office is too fun. Like, why don't you like be a little bit more? I mean, not they didn't use the word
Sterile?
sterile. That's a good way to put it. Bland. They didn't use the word bland, but like it's code. Like when you say it should be more professional. I'm like, says who? Like why? Like the only person that comes in here is me, and maybe some other coworkers. And why shouldn't it be a place that I enjoy to be, that's fun, that's inviting, that's warm, and keeps my energy up, right? So things like that, or like, messaging to like you should slow down, you should pump the brakes, you should, things like that. I'm like, really? Like playing small is it's a bad look. It's a bad look for an employer to tell their people to play small. It's certainly for the individual, it's not a good idea. Like if you find yourself in that kind of an environment, you really should take a second look and like, is this the place for you to be? Because you should be empowered to be as big as you can, like to do as much as you can. And because of some outdated norms saying, I shouldn't wear my Happy Gilmore Boston jersey. Now I actually wouldn't wear this to work, but like, it, they're just silly norms. Like that just don't matter. Like if it doesn't matter, like who cares? And why claim that that's a reason why someone doesn't fit with the organization and they should leave? And it's often just a coded kind of excuse for maybe someone who's older or something like that, where they need a reason to get rid of them because they're worried about age discrimination claims or whatever it might be the case.
It's I often say ageism isn't going away. So I just want to make sure that this is really, really uh, clear right from the get-go. There is nothing that you could do about somebody else's prejudice or bias. And they say that
Yeah.
ageism is the last permissible bias. But there's a lot that you, candidate and person in the company, can do to be able to mitigate what's underneath this band-aid or this smokescreen around overqualified.
Yeah, yeah, and you're suggesting that a lot of times when companies use the term overqualified, it's really just a dog whistle towards ageism. Is that right?
It is a dog whistle, but I think what I really want to impart is it's typically a placeholder for the three primary fears that they are encountering in your candidacy or even when you're in a job. And the first fear and concern that they have is that you are not technically savvy.
Hmm.
So they're going to sniff out and they're going to want to know, hey, is this person able to bring the level of technical acumen to this job? Specifically, are you AI savvy? Are you an AI ally? Or are you an AI, hey, no, thank you, right? Are you adopting or are you still believing that it doesn't really matter, right? So are you
Yeah,
going to
which by the way, I mean that if that's truly what they're looking at, I mean that's a perfectly reasonable thing, right? To consider when you're hiring for a position. The problem is when you just make the assumption that someone who's over a certain age can't possibly be
Of
savvy,
course, of
right?
course. And if you're over 40, let's face it, you've been through you've been privy to the development of the internet. You're
Yeah.
using all kinds of software and things that are of the moment. But the point is that you are responsible. You are very much responsible for making sure that that's clear. If you're an AI outsider and you're not using it, talking about it, and have an understanding of why this matters for the future of that company, it will literally put that nail in the coffin right away, right? They'll think you are not able to take us into the next version of wherever we are as a company.
Yeah, yeah,
AI outsider versus AI ally, totally something that they're sniffing out, and it can also be a indicator for why they would call somebody overqualified.
yeah,
The
yeah,
second one, the second one is that they think, again, faulty assumption, that you are a flight risk. In other words, they see somebody who, presumably is on the, maybe at the latter part of their careers, 50s, maybe even 60s, and they think to themselves, geez, they're probably thinking about retiring soon. So I really want to address this because I'm here to tell you nobody gets to decide your expiration date. Nobody.
yeah. It's so
You,
it's so
you
frustrating.
decide.
Like the workforce is so different now than it was a generation ago, where, maybe it was more traditional that people between 60, 65, maybe 70 on the upper end, was retirement age. People are, yeah, nobody gets to decide on your expiration date. Like, people are working well into their 70s or even into their 80s, and if you're still cognitively capable and present and like healthy and capable, like, why not? Like, you have a whole lifetime of experience and wisdom to add. Like, that's super valuable.
I'm so glad you just said that word, experienced. I want you to make sure anybody who is listening here, you understand experience is good, but it's also a real warning flag that you are essentially using that as a timestamp, and it's your tenure equals something. I want
Mhm.
you to replace experience with relevance,
Yeah.
because you get all the time in the marketplace, but if it doesn't translate into something that is meaningful for that industry, that company, that person, it will not have a lot of depth and weight, because everybody at this age group has the experience. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Qualified is an idea that everybody believes that they're qualified. Now I need to know the hows and the whys. And I want to know in alignment with what that company needs, not just saying, hey, I have 20 years of proven experience. That's an empty claim, because I don't know what that means anymore. It ran its course. People used it for God knows how long. And sadly, it's just become fluff. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well,
So I
yeah,
really need to
it's
understand the
interesting because I
translation.
I find that to be the case regardless of age, even, like, because you'll see in any job posting, like, a lot of times they'll say 5 years experience, blah blah blah, and then they'll have a whole long list. I'm like, so on the one hand, people can have faulty assumptions if you're older and have quote unquote too much experience. On the other hand, they have this ridiculous arbitrary notion, that like 5 years of experience actually means something. Like, you can have 5 years of crappy experience. Like, you could have 5 years as a manager and you were like the worst crappy manager ever to
Right,
you know,
right,
be on the face of the earth. That should not qualify you for that position. The questions should be like,
right,
how do you do these things, and what competencies and skills do you have? How can you contribute? And someone may be a super fast learner. Maybe they only had a year. But they're super qualified. Someone else may have had 20 years and but they don't have the necessary skills in this moment. Uh, and so, oh, I just disappeared, didn't I? Here I am.
yes.
Okay. So it's this arbitrary thing, right? So, like, absolutely, someone who has had a long career, maybe in multiple industries and lots of different contexts, being able to translate that from like this arbitrary like 20 years experience or 30 years experience to be able to actually translate that. What does that mean? What does that actually mean that you can do for the organization? That's that relevance that you're talking about.
It is that relevance. And other things that also signal relevance is consistent learning, right?
Yeah.
People who are building skills of the moment. And I'm not just even talking about AI. I can hear it when we talk to prospects and clients. Are they able to distill conversations down into sound bites and not ramble? Not none of this
Mm.
And the other thing that I also really focus and encourage everyone to think about is if all your experience is discussed either on your resume or on LinkedIn or in your conversations as something that was of the past,
Mhm.
you will be creating a professional obituary. Everything that lives in this past tense is telling that decision maker, you've been there, you've done that. And what I really help our clients to work on is what we call tomorrow stories.
Hmm.
Take this experience and bring me into the future of whatever that industry is. And so I'll give you an example because I know that this might sound like, okay, so how am I supposed to do this, right? Like I've already done this project. And so how do I capitalize on having it live in the future? And a couple of examples, and I'll just top line these for you. If you have been through an RFP or brought in any kind of software to the company, the probability that that software still exists today is very high. In other words, that investment that you made in order to go through the RFP, to curate the vendors, to be able to secure the final implementation, all that investment still has a life
Mhm.
and probably an efficiency value, right? We saved this amount of time then, and over a period of time, it has also yielded X in aggregated, efficiency increases. The other one is, of course, if you built a department, you've been able to generate a lot of retention. Those people may very well still be there. And a lot of the other projects that you led are still alive and kicking in that company. So I just don't want you to think because you left, your
Mm.
impact died.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's really a helpful way to frame it because that's kind of what we're always taught, right? Is any past work experience, you put all of that in past tense on your resume. And it really I think everything that you're saying is just how to make yourself more compelling, right? And to take away the bias excuse. So you can't change like I'm not going to change whether or not someone has ageism and is biased that direction, but I can remove the excuses they might make to try to dismiss me, and I can be more proactive about establishing that relevance and why I'm a super great fit for this position and how what I've done recently translates into what I will do for this position. So those future statements, I think, is a
100%.
beautiful way. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. We need you, candidate, to help us see why you matter beyond just your history. Right? No company is going to be reinvesting in in what is now the past or the archives. All companies are going forward, and that's what they're looking for, is to understand how you're going to be a part of that.
Awesome. So let's play this out. So I'm not as old, but I'm 46, going on 47. And so I certainly am in that age range where it could start to be an issue for me, right? And I've certainly heard it before. Like I've heard things about being overqualified for a given position or whatever. And I suspect most in the audience has too. So um, let's assume, like someone is now applying for a position. They look over the position posting perfect fit. They have lots of relevant experience, lots that they could add to this position, but it's also likely a position that's going to draw in a bunch of younger folks, and so how would you suggest preemptively short-circuiting that whole like you're overqualified when maybe on paper you are like maybe they're asking for 5 to 10 years experience and you have 20 years experience and all of that. Like how do you start to, I don't know what the issue is with my camera, but let's turn that back on. How do you short circuit that and like preemptively, put yourself in the best light?
Well, I'm going to answer this question in probably not the most polite way, but I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm going to tell it to you straight. Get the bleep off of those job boards, right? So you should not be spending your time applying. And I'm going to give you the data behind this. The ROI, the return on your time and investment when you are applying online is about 0.002% conversion. And conversion does not mean that you're getting a job. It could be some kind of response, it could be an
Right.
interview. And so let's equate that. That is about 7 months of effort if you were to spend 40 hours a week doing that apply now. And so already you are setting yourself up for a terrible, terrible time. It could include depression, demoralization, feelings of isolation, and also showing up for interviews exhausted, frustrated, and desperate. So I would not ever recommend that people, especially if you're over 40, start getting involved with the noise in applicant tracking systems. Since AI, the density of applicants has only increased, which makes it
Absolutely.
even harder for you to get any traction. So the first thing I want you to do before you get into anything is move away from those job boards and also any over reliance on recruiters. This is your job to have. And now what I really want you to do is I really encourage you to focus in, and this is definitely something worth writing down. So whoever you are listening, pull over, grab a pen and write this down. This is literally the game changer. And I ask this of every client, every prospect. What I really care about is what are the urgent and expensive problems that you have the unfair advantage to solve.
Hmm.
Urgent and expensive problems you have the unfair advantage to solve. So I'm going to break this down for you so you can understand the rationale for why this little triad or, these three legs of the stool come together. If you are solving a problem or know how to solve a problem that is urgent, your candidacy will move. If it's a nice to have, that issue or that reason for being hired is going to lag. And so you can take your resume, you could take any experience that you have, be it on LinkedIn or not, and now I want you to have it run it through chat. See what it says. What are the urgent and expensive problems that you have the unfair advantage to solve? If that problem is not an expensive problem, you will be seen as overqualified.
Hmm.
Right? So of all the problems that you have, you're looking for the ones that are difficult and rarer to solve. It is no accident that people are being paid something like $200 million over at Anthropic and AI because the
Wow.
problems that they are solving are they're so expensive and they're so urgent. So that demand is higher for that person and the supply is scarcer. Hence, a much higher price point.
Ridiculous offers. Yeah.
Ridiculous offers, exactly. but we can learn from that, right? We can learn from that and say, oh, why are they being paid so much? Because they're solving urgent and expensive problems not everybody knows how to solve. They have the unfair advantage, right? They've been trained in this, they've done this, and clearly the ROI on hiring this person, if they're getting paid $200 million, what's the real impact to the company? So if you
So,
don't have that unfair advantage, they're going to hire somebody else. So
yeah, yeah.
this
So
may not
I
seem
think
like
that's
a very
amazing.
logical. Go
That's an
ahead.
amazing way to frame it. And I think that makes you invaluable, right? The question is like, and I know at least part of the answer is networking, right? Because so many jobs are, you get via who you know. But the question is like, if you're not gaining traction via networking, the default then becomes the job boards and the applicant tracking systems, and we know that those are almost getting worse and worse, like in terms of their ability to actually identify good people. Recruiters can be really hard. um like in the last minute that we have, like what would you say is like the main strategy then, having that in your quiver, of
I'm
really
gonna.
defining
I
your
can't
value?
wait to
What
share
do you
this with
do?
you and
Yeah.
your audience. I really can't wait because this is a methodology I figured out just a couple days ago. I got a reach out from one of my clients. I think it was like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, and he said, "Oh crap, I just got this amazing interview with the CEO. I don't know what their urgent and expensive problems are,
Hmm.
but I need to, I am all in on identifying this. And so what I want you to do, I don't care what AI engine you're using, if it's Claude, if it's Chat, if it's Perplexity, ask for the five most recent articles from most credible sources and have them aggregate the five most urgent and expensive problems that this company is going through.
Mm,
You're going to get a freaking fantastic like short list. And now I want you to come at it and identify which one of these are the pain point that you are best equipped to solve.
mm.
Right? So use your tools and then customize it. Always, of course, check the responses, make sure that they're accurate, and then build from there.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Loren, we could go on and there's so much more to say, but I do know at the time I need to let you go. Before we wrap up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us the final word for today.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much, Jonathan. You've been so generous. Best way to find me is the place where I live when I'm not at home, which is on LinkedIn. So it's Loren, LorenGreiff. And also my website is portfoliorocket.com. And you can also listen to my podcast, Career Blast and a Half. So I also love having listeners explore the way that I call bullshit on outdated career advice. So thank you so much, Jonathan.
Love it. Love it. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Loren can do for you. Check out the website, check out the resources, get connected. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.